What We Learned During English 102
by Joanna,
Mary,
and Winnie. The first lesson we learned in English 102 is learning how to interpret a text from surface to depth. With reading Let America Be America Again by Langston Hughes, I noticed that he is talking about how America used to be and how it is not fair now. Extreme racism and inequality was happening back then. In the surface of this poem, it just looks like they're being hateful to them. An impactful quote from this story is, "America was never America to me. America is supposed to be the land of the free. Home of the free is an illusion, ideal, a promise that can't be kept, a myth, and not true." When you look a little deeper into this poem, you can actually see the struggle that this man is going through. Some of the struggles that he is going through is racism and being black in America. During the late 1930s, the Great Depression was going on, and everyone, especially black people, were out of jobs. I applied this method throughout the whole semester. We had to analyze every poem that we read. Before we wrote our papers, we had to dig deeper in the stories and think about what they actually mean when they wrote it.
The second lesson we learned in English 102 is how to write a thorough thesis. In What You Pawn, I Will Redeem by Alexi has a lot of key words that can help you get main points for your paper. With having a good thesis, it's about being very specific and very detailed. With taking the what you pawn part tells who stole the regalia, and the pawn part is the person selling the regalia for money. The I will redeem shows that I is Jackson in the story, and the redeem is Jackson trying to buy back the regalia. In class, we were shown how to use the word circling. This helps plan out all the ideas that's going to go into your paper. With using the word circling idea helps put a very thorough thesis together.
The third lesson we learned in English 102 is the importance of context on our interpretation of a reading. Through Gilman's The Yellow Wallpaper, I learned how your interpretation of a text is influenced by context. In The Yellow Wallpaper, Gilman presents the expectations of women during the time while bringing awareness to mental illness. The Yellow Wallpaper is told from Gilman's perspective and is based on her experiences with mental illness, which affects the context of this story. In this story, her husband being her doctor is significant because he's very controlling over what she does, and she believes everything he tells her because he's a doctor. I think this also symbolizes how most men were viewed at the time as well as women. And to further enhance our understanding of this story, we had to read outside sources so that we would interpret the context a little differently by having background knowledge. So one of the outside sources that we used was Mitchell's essay about the rest cure that he created. The rest cure was seen as a way to cure Gilman because at the time women couldn't use their brain a lot or exert a lot of energy because that was seen as dangerous for their health. And then we also read Kellogg's Guide, which explains how women should and should not act, as well as what they should and should not do while trying to have kids. And I think this also explains the societal pressures of the time on women because there was a strong importance on motherhood. And then this story also shows her mental illness worsening through how she views the wallpaper and how it changes. At first, she hates the wallpaper and wants to move out of the house because she sees the pattern as disturbing, and then she becomes mesmerized by it and follows it for hours. By the end of the story, she thinks that someone is trapped in the wallpaper, and that's when her mental illness is the worst, and she wants to help free the person in the wallpaper. Finally, she helps the woman escape the wallpaper by ripping it down. The image of ripping down the wallpaper to let the woman free is symbolic of Gilman trying to free herself from the men controlling her who want to cure her mental illness. Throughout analyzing this work, I learned how to use other sources to gain a better understanding of what I'm trying to analyze. And in The Yellow Wallpaper, we use Mitchell and Kellogg's essays to understand the background behind the time. This technique was especially helpful during the last paper when I had to analyze a poem multiple times to find more meaning each time. Through this, I had to learn how to dig deeper and find more of a meaning, which helped with further analyzing the poems in the last paper. By using outside research, I was able to understand the background of the poem better, and I was able to make more of a meaning from the text.
Life lessons we would like to take away. The first lesson we would like to take away is looking at life below the surface level. In Jordan's story, Many Rivers to Cross, It just looks like the woman in the story is a poor mother who's on her own and her mother died. If you look a little deeper, you can see that she's struggling with her relationship with her father and the hardship she has to go through to provide for her child as a single woman.
The second life lesson we would like to take away is understanding mental illness. In Gilman's The Yellow Wallpaper, you can tell throughout the story that her mental illness is getting worse in the way she treats people and how she thinks about her child.
The third lesson we would like to take away is your attitude towards something can change over time through a deeper understanding. This is shown in Bishop's poem, The Fish, because in The Fish, my view of the fish in the poem changed with a deeper understanding because at first glance, this poem looks like a catch and release story. The speaker sees the fish as a beast that was an impressive thing to catch, but throughout the poem, he looks more into the history of the old fish and has sympathy for him. This poem goes from a catch and release story to a story of displaying sympathy from seeing a deeper beauty.